In the words of Prince in his song, Dear Mr. Man, listen, ain't no sense in voting. Same song with a different name. Might not be in the back of the bus, but it sure feels just the same. Ain't nothing fair about welfare. Ain't no assistance in aid. We ain't that affirmative about your actions till the people get paid. Tells a lot about how people feel. Welcome to the Median Society. Tonight's guests are fathers, citizens, and contributors to the United States of America. They love, they care, they raise families, they work, and all believe in the American dream. All they ask is for America to believe in them. Tonight, we're going to have an open and honest discussion with black men to tell the world how we feel, how things make us feel when they happen to us, how things make us feel when they happen to those around us. Thank you so much. And we ask that you welcome the guests that are online tonight. We have Nicholas Sylvas, Ben Morall, Jethro Moorefield, Clifford Stokes, and Eric Lee. Thank you for coming to the Median Society. And let's begin. What does the term to you as an African American in the United States mean when you hear two Americas? Let's start the discussion. Ben?
Well, for me personally, being an African-American man that grew up in the South, Florida specifically, and being raised by a very strong father who climbed his way up the corporate ladder in the face of a lot of opposition, I was very familiar with two Americas from a very, very early age. My father always let me know that there's almost like a different standard that we have to hold ourselves to.
One of the things that I learned growing up in the South also is that no matter how good you are, how skilled, how professionally qualified you are, you're going to be viewed in a certain manner, and in most cases that's less than your white counterparts. So it's one of those things that my father taught me, is that you can sit there and grovel about it and be upset about it, or you can just continue to excel and move past the moment. But it is something that is very real. You sit there in a room with other candidates when you're applying for a position or when you're going for a promotion, and you see where your credentials are and what your professional skill set is compared to others. But a lot of times those things are not necessarily held against you, but they don't benefit you. So you really have to go in with a mindset that just because I'm more qualified, I'm the most qualified, does not necessarily mean that you will obtain that position or that promotion.
Okay. And Nicholas?
What I feel in regards to two Americas, like I tell my kids that I work with all the time, I relate everything to sports because I was a big athlete when I was young. We're not on the same playing field. To my opinion, the way that America is set up is that when we are attempting to equalize everything and become what we need to be as black men, the field changes. We could be really thriving and doing well, and then all of a sudden the field change, the rules change. And that's what it is to me being African American male, that no matter how good we do something, even though we strive to do things 10 times better, because being raised in Florida, the deep part of Florida, Pensacola, Florida, that's something that you have to learn, that you have to do things better than your white counterpart. But even when you do that, like I said, the field changes, because you can be excelling and doing everything well, and then all of a sudden there's a different set of rules that are put in place that make you have to take 10 steps back. So in my opinion, that's what having two different Americas looks like.
Okay. And let's go back to Ben.
Hey, gentlemen, can you hear me?
Yep, much better.
Great, great. Yeah, I was just mentioning that two Americans to me, like I said, growing up in the South and having being raised by a very strong black father, it was instilled in me at a very, very young age that we had to be twice as good all the time to be even considered uh, halfway as good or half as equal as our white counterparts. And so that just instilled in me a drive to always try to be the best at whatever I've done because I knew it was gonna, or I felt like it was gonna be looked at as marginal as compared to other groups. So, and it's something that I've seen through life and things that I've experienced over the 46 years on this earth that my father told me at a young age and rang true to this day.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's go to the next question. So, and I'm going to have Jethro and Eric take this one. When a white American comes to the defense of law enforcement, even when it is clearly showing that they abused their authority and killed an African American, how do you feel? Jethro?
Quite naturally, you know, you feel bad about it. I feel bad about it. We don't want to see it. I don't want to lump all law enforcement into one group. You have bad individuals, you have good individuals. Quite naturally, I don't feel good about it. I don't think it's no defense for that. Just being human beings, but especially for my race. It's something that has continued. The police state was set up for us, something we need to change. It may be something we need to change within ourselves to do better, to raise our men and women to be productive citizens, to not stray away. We're all going to stray away. We all make mistakes. But even still, it starts at home. It starts with your family. Then it starts with your community. And let's go from there.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, so having, obviously, we've all had that experience recently and over the years, I guess I should say. And one of the things I will say, it makes me angry. It's frustrating, and it's somewhat uncalled for, right? I mean, there's something called basic logic, and you can tell in some conversations that I've had with white Americans who are in the situation that you described. No matter what, it's a defense, right? So in some ways you can't break through to them. You just have to be open. You have to talk and give examples and give experiences, and just hope one day it'll come through. And I've actually had that experience. He wasn't as standoffish and as blocking about certain situations. This is not a killing of an American, but it'll get there, right? I mean, when you get there, we talked about the kneeling in the NFL, and he was like, "Well, you don't. If you did that at your job," I'm like, "Well, they don't play the national anthem at my job. I work in a private industry. That's not something that's an option." So we went back and forth on that, and then later we had some conversations about our kids starting to drive, and I was like, "Well, I got to give Jordan that talk," and he was like, "What talk?" So I described to him the things we all know what those are, what to do when the police pulls you over, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, "I don't understand." So we went and had beer. He volunteered, so let's go talk over beer. And I laid it out to him. And I think communicating unfiltered is one way you can get through. But in some instances, I don't think you can break through because they just won't hear it. So for me, I just try to keep it keep it unfiltered, and be as honest as possible, as unemotional as possible, because that also gets in the way. And then turn around to some positives. Always end on some positive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's agree among us to talk about this more, and then hope it spreads, right? So that's how I deal with that type of situation.
Okay, that's interesting that you bring that up because the really interesting thing about that is when you think about African Americans, and then you think about Africans that come over here
Yeah.
and work. I've spoken with a lot of them, and they don't even think from that perspective they don't talk to their kids about it. So when all of this stuff started happening, someone would actually talk to me and say, I never had to do that before, and what do you tell your son? And I'm looking at them like, you're still black. So to me, it's like, you still got black skin, so you better wake up quick, and just being honest about it. So, Ben, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what's been said so far, but I also like to add in a lot of it. I think the media plays a huge role in it, because the demonization of the African Americans who are killed happens almost immediately after the incident occurs. Starts criminal history being drug up. If they old library book from third grade, you'll find out about that after they're shot, because they'll pull up anything and everything possible serving it. Thing doesn't happen to Caucasians a lot of times. As evidence, Ashley Babbitt at the White House was unfortunately killed at the insurrection on January 6th. They immediately went to talking about her military service, which is, we definitely respect her military service, but they also played non-based rants and things like that as to when she was killed by a police officer. And they basically tried to play up all of her good parts and play down all the negatives regarding this.
Well said. Well said. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that also you really have to understand your audience, who you're talking to when you're engaging people in these conversations. I worked in law enforcement for 12, 14 years, and have a lot of friends, and I've lost a few when we've had some of these discussions, because they don't understand that due to media influence, there's a perception that a lot of officers might have when they come to a vehicle. And one of the things that we have to understand as Black men is that, and I debate with this with several people, there has to be a level of comfort. You have to go above and beyond to make people feel comfortable around you, especially someone who has that power to take your life. My dad told me very young, when that officer comes to the door, hands up, yes sir, no sir. You let them know you can speak, you can articulate, that you're an intelligent human being, and that you mean them no harm. And I hate to say it, a lot of times we have to go above and beyond to make people feel comfortable.
Yep.
I have a statement about that, and I appreciate everything you guys just said, and we've all had that talk. But should we have to make people comfortable, or anybody comfortable? Why should we always acquiesce ourselves to say that I'm not doing anything wrong? I'm a citizen just like you. We all know the situation, how these people are. Some of them, not all of them, but I don't feel I should have to go beyond anything beyond any other human being. But I do understand what you're saying. I don't know.
At the end of the day,
Black mirror, I don't understand.
It's not fair. It's not fair. And as my dad told me, it's like a speed bump in the road. You can get hung up on it and get frustrated by it, or you can roll over it and keep going. It's fair, but life ain't fair.
And then you try to fix it, right? Try to fix that speed bump. I think I see some of the other questions coming, but I think that's something that we have to get involved. Not everybody has to run for office. We'll support people that are running for office, and no matter what they look like, party-wise or anything. I have a friend I used to work with. He's a libertarian, and we sat in the office every day. And I was like, most of the things that we talked about, we were in alignment with. There were a few things that we weren't. He wasn't an Obama fan, but not because Obama was Black, not because Obama was a Democrat or whatever. He just said, I just don't like that policy because I'm a libertarian and I believe in whatever, right? I was like, oh, I can understand that. He actually ran for office and I supported him because a lot of things he was talking about made a lot of sense, right? So I think we can, in order to remove that speed bump, and we do have to go over it right now. We do have to go over it, and it's unfair. But I think if we start getting more involved, and we get our kids to be, or their friends into legal positions, into the politics and parties and all that, either part, any part, doesn't matter. To start talking about these things and getting these things bubbled up so that everyone understands it. I do think, really quick, I do think the younger generations. I have actually my kids span two different generations. I just found that out. One's a millennial, two are millennials. One's barely a millennial, and the other two are Generation Z. The Generation Zers, my 21 and my 19, their friends understand this. Yeah. They've seen it happen because my kids hang out with more white kids than I hung out with. And they see it. It's like, why? They notice it. They're not like, oh, no, he didn't treat you differently. They actually see it and actually bring it up to them. That's a huge step because those people are going to be the ones in these positions of power. And if they've already seen it, they know it, hopefully they can help do something about it.
Okay. All right, let's move on to, I want to get a little more personal inside this, and not from the perspective of just you guys as individuals, but we're going to talk about people that are like us. Let's talk about George Floyd, Elijah McClain, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castile. Let's start with Philando Castile. That's a situation, and I'm going to have Ben start off in this from the perspective because Ben is a black man that believes in having armament, having weapons, right? I'm sure Jethro might be the same, and I want to know how you feel, Ben, when you saw a man, and we saw video. This man told them that, hey, I have this. I'm telling you, I'm having this, but they just shot him dead in front of his kid and his wife, right?
Yeah.
What did that make you feel?
It hurt. I mean, of all of the shootings, they all hurt, but that one hit me in a special place because
we might have lost him. Jethro, you want to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those killings were tragic. They hurt on different levels, but they all truly hurt. Besides the First Amendment, I think the Second Amendment is the greatest amendment we have because it gives us the right to protect ourselves, our family, and our property. To see someone gunned down for no reason because color of skin, age, sex, it doesn't make a difference. It's wrong. So it does hurt. I'm always going to support individuals having the right to protect themselves. I truly believe it. We all were hurt when we saw the videos. We all know, we've seen these things. Our parents told us these things. These things are nothing new. Most of America is finally getting a chance to see these things. You can tell your counterparts year after year that these things are happening, and they just blow them off. Okay, yeah. But it's not really like that. I'm not like that. But it is like that. And it's been like that for a long time. Right now, it's figuring out how we can change that. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Nicholas?
It hurt as well as angered me because we're all black men. And every time that we walk out of the door and go to work or go to the store, there's a possibility of that situation happening to us. And with like I said earlier, it's two different playing fields. Because when you look at that situation, he did everything he was supposed to do. He verbalized that he had a licensed firearm in his car, but because of the fear of black men, the situation escalated to a point where it didn't need to, and that's something that we go through all the time. You know, I
I think he got stuck. Let's see.
see us and see
Okay.
a certain level of success, but when they look at other African Americans or Black people, they see the color of their skin. And when that happens, a lot of times those are the people who say, I'm not prejudiced. I have no prejudice. I have Black friends. But you're looking at a person based on what you know of them and because of their status. But when you see other Black people in the community, all you see is their Black skin. And every time that I walk out of the door, there's a possibility I could have a run in with even an individual on the street, because they can say I felt threatened for my life, and then they be justified because I am a larger Black man, and that's not correct. That's not fair. So when I see a situation like with Mr. Philando Castile, it it angers me because at any time that could be any one of us, any one of us.
Okay, Eric.
I agree with just about everything, well, everything that has been brought up so far. I think one of the things that was stark to me, um, and I'm all for the Second Amendment as well. I have no issue with that, taking care of yourself. But the thing that stood out to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've never heard anything from the NRA. Nothing.
Yes,
So
that their
what
silence is deafening.
it is, and to me that it speaks volumes, right? Um, there's a situation, a quote unquote perfect, though deadly, unfortunately, situation where you can show the right to bear arms in in its truest form, and they aren't there, nowhere to be found. So that tells me, that kind of goes back to our other question of white America, two Americas, right?
Hmm.
They're Black members of the NRA.
Hmm.
So what's it's not? Is it a race thing, or are you worried about how your white NRA members are going to take supporting a Black man? I just don't understand it. But to me, that was the thing that stood out. Other than everything else that everyone else said, that on top of what happens, like, okay, where's the NRA in this particular case? This is not a thug, right? Quote unquote thug.
Hmm.
This is a law-abiding citizen who did everything he's supposed to do, and look what happened.
Quick, real quick, the irony of that, the NRA just filed for bankruptcy.
I saw
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
New York, the New York Attorney General has already gone after them.
Hmm. Yeah. Time and time again, the NRA has had chances to stand up for legally armed African Americans, and they've not stood up time and time again. A lot of times, people that defend the NRA like to use Robert F. Williams in the Deacons of Defense and say that, oh, well, they armed the Deacons of Defense back in the 50s, so they're not racist. Robert F. Williams lied on his application and didn't let them know he was African American.
Okay. Let's talk about, let's even in that same vein, let's talk about like back with Trayvon Martin. Here's a guy, he was a kid. And I often wondered, why didn't they even just go after like child abuse laws or something? You know, it just didn't make any logical sense. He was a kid. And this guy is still out there, just lollygagging around, and he's able to do whatever he wants to do. And the kid is dead. What does that make you think of when you hear that your kid is just worthless? Doesn't mean anything to society. Clifford?
It's heartbreaking. It really gives you pause and concern every time they walk out the door. And one of the things that we have to do as a people is get educated on how the system works. Where the police are doing one thing, then there's the prosecutor's office, and those are elected officials. We have to become aware of who those elected officials are, what their responsibilities are, and how we leverage them. One of the things that some people don't understand is that prosecutor's office and the police work hand in hand. So a lot of times the prosecutor's office is not going to go after a friend to the police or an actual officer in some cases, because they have to work with them the next day. So, and a lot of times they look for an outside prosecutor. Well, that prosecutor has to work with their officers in their district and in their regions. And all these people are intertwined. Yet you really have to get in there and understand what their responsibilities are and if they are doing what they are supposed to do. They are an elected official, and you need to, when their time comes, you need to be up there asking the tough questions. We need to be asking the tough questions and addressing them and saying, well, what did you do in this situation and why not? And that situation, you know, when I have that conversation about that particular case, my thought process is, so anyone can come out and pick a fight with you and act like and think that they're losing and kill you.
Yep.
So I had that discussion with a friend, an acquaintance, and I said, so if I come into your house and in your yard and start a fight with you, and you start getting the best of me, I can take your life because I'm protecting myself. And you know, people don't get it, or they get it.
Yeah. I think the tough part about that one is he was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that to me, I saw when that happened, I saw my oldest kid. And I thought, hey, I'm doing everything I can. I moved into a good community, and my kid can't genuinely just walk outside with a hoodie on. You know, my kid was in high school at that point. I think he was in 9th grade, and he could not just walk outside with a hoodie. And now I gotta basically assess, hey man, I don't want you to wear a hoodie. I don't want you to wear a hoodie because if you wear a hoodie, they're gonna have a perception. Here's a guy that's a computer science guy. Okay, he's not. My son is not a thug by any stretch of the imagination, right? So I look at it like I gotta now figure out what kind of clothes he can wear.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure he's safe. You know, and that's the sad thing is, I mean, I feel like society at that point didn't even pay attention to this is a kid. He was a kid, right? It wasn't like two grown men talking or fighting. He was a child, and this guy got away with it. They even I remember when they even started like doing marketing on the gun he was using, he used, right? Oh, he has this Kel-Tec, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It stays in my head. You know?
He had a tour of the Kel-Tec factory.
Yeah.
They took him on a tour, and Kel-Tec lost a lot of business from African-American gun owners because of that situation. But yeah, it was sad, and that stuff hit so close to home because that was 10 miles away from where Anthony and I grew up. So that Sanford area, I'm very familiar with that 7-Eleven where he bought the Skittles and the tea. Very familiar with that stretch of road that he walked. So, I mean, it's saddening. It's saddening, but it's not surprising at all.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything, or before we move on?
Yeah, just really quick.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, just one thing I just wanted to dovetail on what you were saying, Anthony. For me, it was a direct hit. And you know where I live. I live in Ashburn, Virginia. I live in a gated community. My son, athlete, great student. He's going to graduate from college this year. Played lacrosse from like 10 years old all the way up. Always walking with his friends or by himself, jogging, which is another case down in, I guess that was in
Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Georgia.
Yep.
To have to look at him and talk to him when he's old enough, he was in high school as well. He sees it and he's terrified, right? I mean, because he has an earring. He had the blonde, whatever, the Odell Beckham stuff. I mean, but he was a good kid and he was a good student. He's a great athlete. So having to have that talk, it brought me to tears to have to think about this is like legit gonna happen to us, especially in Virginia where a lot of the homes have weapons. And they're looking to use them, right? Yeah. And they can get away with it because it's like, well, he's on my yard. So that one, it hit, especially hit home, not only because he was a kid, but it was exactly the same situation that we lived. We've lived here for his entire life. So everyone in the neighborhood should know who he is. He's always outside. He's always jogging, running, jumping, whatever he's doing, to, stay in shape. So it really hit home. That one, hit hard.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Sure.
What do we do about, how do we go about changing that? Can we change it? Or should we even think about changing it and just building something better? That's my question for you guys.
One thing I jump on that. People have to become familiar with us. When we moved into our neighborhood, I know all of my neighbors. They know me. They know my kids because I take them over there and put them. Hey, we're the Stokes. We're here. Just want to say hi, because if there's a suspect situation going on, I need you to know who we are and that there's some level of familiarity with them. There has to be some level of comfort, and I know you questioned that earlier, but people tend to shy away from things that they are unfamiliar with, that gives them pause or gives them concern, and because we have been categorized or shown in such a negative light through media, a lot of times that is the only exposure that white Americans have had of us. So until they actually get to sit down, meet with us, talk with us, and understand that we're family-oriented people, oriented people, we're here working, establishing our families, and wanting the best for our kids, just like they do. We're human. We're all human. That falls into that comfort level. They have to become familiar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move into our next section. Being black sets you back. People might get mad when they hear that, but we're going to dig into it. Why is it okay for blacks to be put in jail at a higher rate than white counterparts? Nick?
It's not. The reason why black people are put in jail, in my opinion, is just they had to get rid of slavery. So they found another way to have slavery or have the majority of African American or black people doing menial tasks or locking them away. It went from one to the other. But the way that they frame it, or the way that society looks at it, they're taking away the bad elements to keep everybody else safe. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate thing about it is that there's some black people or some African Americans who buy into that, and they want the crime off their streets, or they want the negative element away from their community, and they are just as part of the problem as the white people, because we assimilate to their belief system. Mm. But in the big scheme of things, like I said, it was using the jail or the prison system as a way to utilize slavery again. Mm. And it's because of the fear of the black man, and the way that it's a fear, as well as white people wanting to put black people in their place. Like I said before, we are on a different playing field, but even because we have a different playing field, in spite of that, we still attain high levels of success, and we catch them and surpass them. As soon as that happens, they change the playing field, or they do something and they criminalize us, and they take us off of that, take us out of the game. And because of that, that's why in my opinion, that's why the prison system is filled with African Americans or people of color, because they're afraid of our success and they want to keep us in our place.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick? And I agree totally 100% with the gentleman just said. But I'm going to read you guys the 13th Amendment. It says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdictions. So that means slavery didn't go away. After the Civil War, you had 4 million freed black people that destroyed the economic balance in the South. This is why they made jails. They start coming up with arbitrary laws to keep us down, loitering. Da 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 da. We can go on and on. This is how the prison system was set up. It was an economic thing for the people in the South to keep their balance and their money's going on. It's just been perpetrated on a larger scale as we've moved on. That's something we really need to look at.
Yeah. The bail system was that free labor. It's like you commit a crime, you got a store owner. Oh, he walked in and stole something. He had no proof, but the court sided with the store owner. They know that the poor, newly freed African American can't pay for whatever the item is. So you can work it off, though. You can work it off. That'll take about 2 months worth of work for you to work it off. So that's how they got that free labor once slavery ended. So yeah, it's all a setup. It's all a setup. And then speaking about just one other point, the justice system with the courts, they were doing a study on I think it was MSNBC of one judge, and it had their sentences side by side for African American of the same age, same level of criminality, and the sentences that were given to their white counterparts. And I mean, it was a 10-year disparity in almost every case. 10 years difference between the sentences that were given out for the African American versus the white for the same judge and the same type of crimes with the same level of crimes done in the past. So I mean, it's definitely not on the level playing field there either, as with other instances.